I mean, invariably when a team bows out at whatever stage of the season, there's going to be question marks about certain players and their future at that club. Damo, if we can bring you in again, Jordan De Goey is the name at Collingwood which keeps bobbing up at the moment.
Yeah, TJ, look, historically, when players of that nature and of that standing and profile wait until the last game of their season before they just determine their future, it says they're leaving. I couch that, though, because this year is different because of what's happened with the list numbers being reduced. And even as we speak, the club's not knowing how much money there is to apportion to each player. But clearly there's some interest. He's got a weird off-field arrangement where he's doing a lot of the negotiations himself or through a family member. And we now know and have known for some time that Carlton is really keen to see what happens next with him.
Just on that, Damo, Nathan Buckley had this to say about the De Goey situation after the game last night.
Geordie loves the club and he wants to be here. Elements of people on his side would like to see him remunerated as well as he possibly could, and there still needs to be a monetary outcome that's satisfactory for both parties.
What do you think he's worth, Kane? I'll bring you in here in terms of he's a match winner, but he doesn't put it across a whole season, so he's a hard one to judge, isn't he?
He really is, Lordo, and there's been talk for a couple of years that he's $1 million player. He's nowhere near $1 million player, firstly because of his inaccuracy in front of goal, and secondly, I think we speak far too much about a player who probably averages 1.8 goals a game. So, he's a $600,000 to $650,000 player for me.
Damo, we heard from Nathan Buckley. What else did you have to say post-match?
Yeah, just bemoaned the lack of effort compared with what they did against West Coast last week. It wasn't existent last night, and also too with what he did address that, he also spoke about the intriguing Brodie Grundy situation.
What I see is young blokes that are just so impressive with the way that they carry themselves, that will genuinely give everything that they've got. So the only way that I can comprehend a result like tonight is that we had nothing more to give. Broads' form hasn't been as strong as his last 2 years. Whether it's got to do with hub life or whether it's got to do with what we've been imposed on us or whether it's just a down year, we'll find out in the next couple. But Broads has been huge for this footy club for a long time. He's a massive character. He provides so much energy, and what he needs to do is rest, refresh, and then come back and do what he's always done.
It's sort of cop-out from Nathan Buckley, and I totally get the sentiment to what he's saying there with the living arrangements that people have got, and particularly, Lordo, when it comes to someone like a Brodie Grundy, who is a free spirit, and being forced to have the monotonous existence that he's had this year, it does add up. It has taken a toll, and it's not the only club to have suffered greatly from what they've been forced to endure this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it didn't seem to be a problem last week. Why is it suddenly a problem this week?
Because that might have been their grand final last week, TJ. Look, there's so many clubs. Look at what happened to North Melbourne, Essendon, GWS to a point, Melbourne. Collingwood clearly have had issues as well when it comes to morale and keeping everyone up. They've done as good a job as they possibly could have, but it's got to them in the end.
But it's what makes Brownie, Richmond and Geelong great clubs. Because they're dealing with exactly the same
the job done.
And they got the job
I reckon Geelong have been nearly the most travelled. They went to Sydney, Perth, Queensland. They've been everywhere.
Well, we talk about Brodie Grundy, who hasn't had a great year, but Jaden Stevens had a pretty poor year. He's had a few excuses. Glandular fever at the start of the year. He's missed some football. Obviously, he had the betting incident where he was out, but he hasn't looked the same player. Hasn't had any confidence. He's looked lacklustre, but he's a talent. Now, you've got to work with guys like this, and you've got to get inside his head to say, you need to work harder, you need to get stronger, because I think the output that Jaden Stevens can give them over the next 2 years, he's got to go away, have a massive pre-season. They've got to have some pretty honest talks with Jaden Stevenson about his work rate and how he applies himself at football, but I still think he's a massive talent who can make something big in this competition if he has a big off-season.